done and or are doing interesting things. So sit back and enjoy.
Hey folks, welcome into Garden Views. And I usually listen back to the show at double speed, so I never realized quite how sultry that is. And that's very appropriate because this is a Valentine's Day themed episode. Love is in the air. And to help us in guiding us to love and how to find love and stuff like that, I found a professional matchmaker, Tammy Tilson. I have known her for a while in real life, and I learned some time ago that she was a professional matchmaker as well as other things, but we don't need to talk about the other things. We'll just talk about the matchmaking unless she wants to. So, Tammy, how are you tonight? And thank you for coming into Garden Views.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
No, it's great. It's
great
my
to
pleasure.
Be here.
Yes. And after a few tech issues, we finally got it together. So there you go. If folks, if you hear any difference in the audio, I'm using Riverside, which is a platform that we use on one of my other podcasts. And I've only recently been able to adopt it to these shows. And hopefully it's better and easier. We'll see. But Tammy, first of all, if you want to, you can tell us about your path and your journey to the role of matchmaker, or just, what made you say one day, I'm going to be a matchmaker, I'd be good at this?
Well, it was never a thought or even something I had ever even really considered or knew about. Okay, it kind of happened organically. So I've been a psychotherapist in private practice since about 2004. So I love helping people, and it makes me feel very fulfilled. But my personal and professional life kind of coincided in a way in around 2007 when I was going through my own dating journey after divorce. And I was actually enjoying it. I was reading books about it, and all of a sudden I would really notice that my ears were perking up when therapy clients were bringing up issues related to being single or re-entering the dating world after being divorced. And so I felt my whole kind of emotional being and physical being kind of pulled toward wanting to help people in that way. So I started a business as a dating coach, and lo and behold, I was getting calls asking if I was a matchmaker, and kind of went into like panic mode because I thought, oh my God, is that what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, is the universe trying to tell me something? So I quickly Googled matchmakers in Baltimore and Maryland, and I noticed there really weren't any matchmakers in Baltimore specifically, and pretty much maybe just one in the surrounding Maryland, DC area. So I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I think I need to start building a database and moving like in a different direction, like than just being a dating coach. So basically around 2015, I started a matchmaking company, and ever since I've been building up a database of singles who are interested in finding committed relationships.
Do you think that these folks, they tried online and it just let them down over and over again?
Many people, most of the people that I work with have already tried, dating online or dating apps without obviously success, which is why they come to me, because they're very much wanting a committed relationship. They're wanting to find success, and they're not able to find it on their own. And they're feeling often very discouraged and very rejected and very frustrated, and they're looking for some support. They're looking for another way, hopefully, to find their special someone.
So here's all I know about matchmaking. the song from Fiddler on the Roof, which is a play I'm pretty sure I've never seen, but probably should have, and the show Millionaire Matchmaker that was on Bravo for like 5 years, which I don't think I ever missed an episode. But she had almost zero success, despite claiming that she had success. None I could see on TV. And then her own marriage fell apart, sort of publicly.
Well, she never got married. She actually was
right.
never married.
It fell apart before the actual ceremony, which is better than after. But still, I mean, when you're a matchmaker and you get engaged, it sort of ruins your TV repertoire. It's like if you're in one of those flipping shows and you go bankruptcy because you can't sell any houses. So I know very little about except what I saw on that show. How close to reality is that show? Like, what's the vetting process? What kind of activities do you do? And take it slow. I'm sure I'm like trying to combine like an 8-step process into one question.
Right. I mean, I've only seen that show a couple times, so I can't, and I wasn't like, I didn't see it from beginning to end, so I can't totally speak, to that. To her show, but I have met her, at conferences. I have seen her show, a little bit here and there. We have very different styles. Again, I don't, just from the sense I got from watching her show. So I'm not looking to criticize anyone,
sure.
Or put somebody down and make them feel more shame than they already feel. I'm there to build people up and try to empower them in lots of ways, whether it means taking them shopping, whether it means, giving them some dating strategies or conversation tips. So I'm there. I try to approach helping people in a very holistic way, where I'm not just introducing them to other singles that fit their criteria, but I'm looking to build their self-esteem. I'm looking to build their physical self, whether that means improving their health, getting help, referring them to somebody who can help get them in better shape. I do take them shopping. I do work with them and talk to them regularly to get their mind and their body in the best shape possible. So when they go on a date, they feel more confident. They feel like they're bringing hopefully their best self forward. So, I come from, since I am a social worker, that's my background. I come from a very compassionate place, where people, by the time they've come to me, not always, but often, like I said, they have had struggles or they wouldn't need me. And not everyone. Some people just don't have the time, or they don't want to be public with the online dating. But I try to be very compassionate and use the therapy skills and tools that I have to help people in the matchmaking process.
Let's step back a second. You said you go shopping with them. So does that mean that you're sort of like their fashion consultant as well? Or is it just to keep them company? Yeah.
No. I mean, some people just, I look at it as a good bonding time. I get to see them in a different light. No, I'm not there just to keep them company. I think some people need a little more support, or they're not even aware that maybe their clothes don't fit them right, or they're wearing clothes that just don't flatter them. So sometimes, even if they do have nice clothes, I think it's good to kind of refresh your wardrobe. You don't have to get a whole new wardrobe, but even getting a few new things kind of gets you in the right headspace.
Yes, I know a lot of clothing salesmen that would agree with you, salespeople.
Right.
So, are you like a source? Do you have like a catalog of like tailors and haberdashers and fine clothiers that come to you and say, "Hey, Tammy, I've got a special for your clients this month"?
No, there's a couple places I tend to take clients where it's reasonably priced and they have a nice selection. But
they're not paying us. They can pay me for commercial time.
What?
They can pay me for commercial time. We're not giving them free commercials, unless it's Nordstrom's. I love you, Nordstrom's.
Right. Okay. Well, I do take them to Nordstrom Rack because I find like they have a very good, especially for men, they have a very good men's selection. Um, it's, I've had a lot of success there taking clients, and they do have tailors or seamstresses there if it doesn't fit quite right. But if somebody has a place where they like to shop, I can meet them. I've met them there. So it's, whatever my client wants. I try to meet their needs, and I don't want to change who they are. I'm trying to enhance who they are, and again, I want them to feel comfortable in their clothes and like how they look. So that's just one aspect that's kind of just an added option that I offer clients. Not everybody takes me up on it. Sometimes I've gone to people's closets and I've seen what they have, and kind of I can work with what they have, but that's obviously only one piece of kind of getting somebody ready to date.
Yes, well, unfortunately, it's the one piece which rings to me in my former life when I was a fashionista and loved doing shopping. Now I just wear like superhero T-shirts and wrestling T-shirts, and So anyway, but enough about me. No one's interested. So I imagine if someone's paying for a matchmaker service, they're probably either young with disposable income or they're upper middle class, affluent. Am I right or wrong about that?
I mean, some people are very affluent. I would say the average person is comfortable. I don't think they have, I know people assume, oh, you must have tons of money if you hire a matchmaker. It's not necessarily the case. I think people really value wanting to find a partner, so it's important to them, even if they don't have a lot of money. And I don't think most of my clients have a ton of money. I think it's just very important to them at this time, and so they're willing to make the investment.
Well, if it saves them, 10 or 20 bad dates of expenses,
Right.
It could be a savings as well. But
Or some people are paying for the online dating subscriptions for 5, 10, 15 years. That adds up too. So this way, they're getting more one-on-one personalized attention.
Well, Cheapo McGillicuddy here only used the free services when they were free. But anyway, and Chico McGillicuddy, by the way, since this is audio, is me, Jeff. That's what I did. No one else.
Oh.
Now, the millionaire matchmaker, again, going back to her, she vetted her clients that they had a certain net worth. It doesn't sound like that's
Right.
part of your...
No.
Okay.
No, I think that's too limiting. I like to not just help people that have a lot of money. I like to help people from all different backgrounds, races, religions, and most of the people I work with, I mean, there's just a range. It's very diverse. So I'm not looking just for the millionaire. I don't really care as much about how much money they have. I just want to make sure they're very serious about this commitment, and that they're open-minded and have realistic expectations. So I don't take everybody. I've learned through experience that if I really feel I can't match somebody and I don't have the right clients in my database that they're looking for, I'd rather not take them on as a client.
So how do you make that decision? When someone contacts you, do you call them in for an interview and you go through a series of questions, then you go through your database, your electronic Rolodex, so to speak, and see if you have, almost like a realtor, to see if you've got the right house for the right people, that you have potential matches for that person?
Yes. I mean, I prefer to meet them in person, but if that can't happen, I'll meet them via Zoom. I also have them fill out a very extensive profile in my database, in my software. And through, many discussions with them, I learn about, their preferences and what they're looking for. And I will go through my database. And if I feel I don't have enough people, potential matches for them, I would rather them just be in my database member, just be in my database where I'm not actively searching for them. and they're not paying me. But if I have a paying client who's looking for somebody like them, they may get an introduction.
Okay, very good. How did you launch the business and get people to know that it existed, or did you launch the business because people were coming to you for this anyway, and you wanted to say to them, we're ready to go?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Well, how did you initially launch and promote the business? How did you get,
I
how did you get your phone number?
Well, um, that's a good question. I'm trying to think back. How did I initially launch? I mean, first it's, getting a website going, and doing those practical things like the logo and I think initially it was doing a lot of events, and to get my name out there. What?
What kind of events did you
Like
host parties,
speed
mixers?
dating events, singles events, just singles events, whether it's like happy hours or like again going to like creating a bowling party or speed, like we did speed dating, we did I did Valentine's Day parties. I was also on the news. I've been on the news probably at least 15, 20 times. So, being out there on TV and being in magazines, got my name out there. I'm very much of a networker and very, very proactive. And, everywhere I went, I'd be giving out cards. So it took time. I mean, it takes time, like any business, to build a name and a reputation. And obviously when I was having success, as I have success with clients, the word gets out. People start people love to talk about love. People love to talk about who they're dating or what dates they've gone on, especially when they're happy. So, word of mouth spread quickly, and friends of friends were calling me, or just, it got out, and gradually over time has spread and built up a nice business, and a nice reputation. But it doesn't just, like anything, it doesn't happen. It requires a lot of hard work and like real desire to want to help people in this way, because it's not easy.
Sure.
People think it's all fun, and they think of like Millionaire Matchmaker. Oh, it must be so much fun. That's so cool. It is fun and it's very rewarding, but it's not easy. Like most things, it's not easy.
No, well, if that show was all fun and easy, it wouldn't make for a good drama. And it wasn't.
Right.
There was a lot of failures and a lot of bumps in the road. And yeah, I mean, there's plenty of failures and struggles on the way to love. So you said in the beginning that you hosted a lot of events. Was this to build up your database, or was it from your existing database?
I mean, I think both. When you're starting out with nothing, when you're starting out, you don't have anybody, right? Like it was really to kind of launch it. It was to launch it, but even once it was launched and I had hundreds in the database, I had to continue doing events to keep bringing in new people. And I had to write blogs, and I did some podcasts, other podcasts, because again, it's another form of getting your name out, exposure, marketing. So when you're a small business owner, you have to be very proactive. It's not going to land in your lap. You got to create it, and you got to, especially being very visible on Google and online, so people find you. You're not just out there. I was out there like pounding the streets, but after a while it was nice because people started to find me on their own just by being online, and would fill out a database, and then it would start a conversation. And so you have to have a like diversified approach. You can't just do events. You can't just rely on the internet. You have to do lots of things like being on TV and just being out there.
How'd you get yourself on
to
TV?
just by sending blogs to various channels, especially around Valentine's Day. They're all looking to do segments. But like when it was COVID, I was on about dating during COVID. How is dating during COVID like different than dating pre-COVID? So you have to find the angle. There are a lot of newscasters are looking to fill some of their time slots,
Right.
and so if you give them some ideas, then they're happy to call you and say, hey, do you want to be on our show? So, but they're not going to seek you out. You have to seek them out.
Sure.
So I would send it to every TV station and just hope that somebody contacts me.
That is funny. That's great.
You know?
So, Zoom love or Skype love, which is better? No, I'm kidding. It's the same, I'm sure. So when you have these events and you sort of have an idea as to who you want to match people up with, do they know in advance, or when you come in you see, hey, Pam, come over here, I think that John, Henry, and Frank might be good for you? And then when Frank comes in, you may say, I think Pam might be good for you. I think Susie and Michelle over there might be good for you as well. I mean, do you sort of do that, or do you just let the mixer or the happy hour go organically?
Right. I mean, it varies. Obviously, with speed dating, it's structured, and there's a system where two people are assigned to a table. They're there for 5 minutes. They have little notes that they take, and they write down whether they're interested in the person, and if they're both interested, they get each other's contact information the next day, and they rotate, and so on and so on. Other events are less structured, where it's just a happy hour, and if somebody sees somebody, they can go up to them. I may initiate, like, hey, have you met so and so? He would, be good for you. Sometimes I do an icebreaker where there's games to, initiate help conversation start.
What kind of games?
To break the ice. Right. Icebreakers to kind of help people, start talking to each other. And little, like, there's a lock and a key, and if your key matches somebody's lock, but you have to go up to people to see whose lock your key fits. So that forces you to, you have like an excuse to approach somebody.
I see. Yeah, it's not like you do a Pictionary tournament and see which partners work out the best, or escape room and see which teams work out.
No, I think escape rooms are good. I haven't done that. I've sent people there on dates. I think there's a lot of creative options for events. I think people really are interested in events because it's more organic.
Right. Axe throwing probably not a good idea.
I don't know. Could be interesting. Maybe not.
Yeah, if they don't get along. I mean, there's a lot of axes around them. I'm just saying.
Right. Could be a little scary.
Have you ever had an occasion where a potential client came to you and they didn't realize it at first, but it's someone that you knew, and all of a sudden it was like a little bit awkward? Or does everyone, they know who you are, and it's like they don't care? They're like, I'm coming to Tammy because I'm coming to Tammy.
So you're asking me,
has anyone ever sought out your services without doing a whole lot of research? They sort of just heard good things, and then it turns and they go, oh, wait a minute, I know you. And it's been like, awesome.
Yeah, it's probably happened. I mean, definitely people who've known me have reached out to me. Neighbors, people I went to high school, elementary school with have reached out to me.
No, but I mean accidentally. So, they didn't know that they knew you, and when they got there, they're like, "Oh, this, I know you."
No, I don't think so. I don't recall that.
Okay, yeah,
like,
no, I'm sure the people that didn't know you.
Yeah.
Right. So you indicated that you have certain activities, and you told me about something that you really love, and that you've been using, something called pickleball. Pickleball. All right. So what is pickleball?
So pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the world.
Oh.
And it's become my favorite passion. I try to play almost every day. It is a combination of like ping pong, tennis, and badminton. So it's not a racket. You're holding more of a paddle, more like a ping pong paddle. It looks more similar to that. It's a smaller court than tennis, different rules than tennis, different point system than tennis. It's it's just so much fun. It's a wiffle ball, not a tennis ball. Mm-hmm. So if you've played tennis, there's a chance that you may pick it up quicker just because of the eye-hand coordination, but you don't have to play tennis to enjoy pickleball. But it's the biggest rage, and it's bringing singles together everywhere. And in fact, I started a group through Facebook called Pickleball Dating, and now I get about 50 new members a day from around the world. Today I got somebody from Italy, and it's very exciting. And people are starting to talk to each other and find not just they're finding like people to play with, but they're also finding romantic partners through my group. And I'm hoping to do events. It's still fairly new, but I'm hoping to do events in the near future.
Oh, that sounds like fun. So most of the audience wouldn't know but there's like pickleball, like places, like there's like tennis clubs and how there used to be squash.
There's pickleball courts growing everywhere. So like when I play, I meet people, especially right now, I'm in Florida. I meet people from all over the country. I met just today. I was playing with somebody from Alabama, somebody from Chicago. Yesterday I was playing with somebody from New Zealand. Like, this sport is having such an impact on people because it's great exercise. It's so much fun, and it's incredibly social.
Was it the Prime Minister of New Zealand, after she stepped down, she decided to play pickleball with you?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. She didn't say, I'm the former Prime Minister that just stepped down?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right. Just making sure. All right.
Yeah.
What are some of your funniest stories or some of your best success stories? Without using names, obviously.
Right. I mean, I have a lot of success stories, but I'd say one is a gentleman who was, married for 25, 30 years. Very, very, he happens to be super successful, very nice looking. And I was bringing him women that I thought he would like, and he, had a nice time, and, he was happy and everything, but it wasn't the right fit. And then by getting to know him further, I realized that he wanted women from a particular race. And I would not have known that by, initially meeting him until I got to know him better. So I remembered a woman I had spoken to from Manhattan, and basically it was during COVID. They had a virtual meeting. They were interested in each other. 4 months later, she moved down to Baltimore. He put her up in her own apartment, bought her a car, and now they got married like this past summer. So, if you met these two people, if you saw them visually, you wouldn't necessarily have put them together. But by working closely with him and getting to really understand like who he finds attractive and what he likes, I was able to kind of hone in on that and find that person. So that was like a really exciting success story, and they just are so happy together, and it's just, amazing. Another one is a young couple where they were both my clients. The woman they're both in their 20s, like their mid to late 20s, and the woman was born with a developmental disorder, a movement disorder. So that, she had never dated before. And her mother actually approached me wanting her to get that's not necessarily like her marriage partner, but just to get some dating experience. And basically, I found her somebody who also had his own type of disability, who was also very interested in having a committed relationship, and they were very accepting of each other.
Sure.
They both had things that made them a little different from, I guess, just the average person. They had their own different kind of disability, but it worked for them. They didn't care, and they loved and accepted each other, and they got married in the last year. So that was really exciting. Another one, which is really amazing, is a woman who really hadn't dated and still wanted to have children. She actually went online, and I kind of coached her through that. She met a guy, she's in Maryland, she met a guy from Africa. And I was a little bit skeptical at first because I hear about a lot of online scams and stuff like that. And at first I was a little
Was
bit...
he a Nigerian prince with a fortune?
No, but I was a little concerned and I was nervous for her. But then I actually met him online with her. I spoke to both of them many times, and I could see that he was a great guy. And this is like 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And they had an online, like just a virtual relationship or whatever, a long distance relationship. And they didn't meet each other for the first time until like 2 years later through COVID, which was really challenging coming from Africa. The first time they tried to meet in Jamaica, she got there and he got stopped in England. Oh. He got stopped because of COVID, because of they closed the borders all of a sudden. Right. And so here he traveled for 24 hours. Anyway, he was sent back, but then they met months later. She met him in South Africa. And anyway, long story short, they're getting married in a few months. Like he just got his visa, which took many, many months. And so that's just like such a fairy tale story that I'm just over the moon happy for them.
Yeah, the international.
So there's a lot of... What?
The international matchmaker. Now, if it was really a story tale, love, you'd find a prince and like a mermaid.
I guess so. Yeah. I haven't had a mermaid as a client yet, but that could be very interesting.
Dare to dream. Dare to dream, Tammy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't want you to give up too much of your secrets or whatever, and and reveal any privacies. But it is, bless you. It is Valentine's Day coming up, and who else should we ask other than you for tips for those lonely hearts out there who are trying to find love? What should they do, and what should they absolutely not do?
Well, I don't think there's any absolute do's and don'ts. I would say if what you're doing isn't working and it hasn't been working, then try a different approach. That doesn't mean you have to use a matchmaker, but maybe it's putting new pictures up if you're doing online and, kind of refreshing your profile or rewriting it. Maybe it's, stepping out of your comfort zone and trying some different activities where it'll increase your opportunity to meet people. There's a lot of times there's like kickball for adults. And there's lots of things out there, if you seek them out, if you look, to try to meet other singles.
Yeah, maybe if you're like 50, stop dressing like you're 22.
Could be that. Maybe you want to lose weight if that's something that you feel is getting in the way.
This is getting very personal right now.
Oh, well, I'm not trying to make it personal, but it's also getting your mind in the right place and believing that it's going to happen for you and really telling yourself that you're creating this and then following that up with action steps, like, maybe even asking friends, hey, do you know anybody who's single? That's how I met my husband, was just, I happened to ask my friend Shelly if her boyfriend at the time, Mitch, had any single friends. And that's how I met my husband. So you really gotta, it's not gonna, most likely it's not falling in your lap, or you're not gonna meet him or her in the freezer section of the food store. I mean, it could happen, but you don't want to just kind of bank on that. I think you've got to be very strategic, like finding a job. I know that doesn't sound really romantic, but you've got to be very action oriented and take very intentional, practical steps to find that person, because I believe there's many potential matches for all of us out there. It's not just one. You just got to do things to create the opportunities.
Yes, well,
So
both you and I have been
the one thing I would
more than once, so yeah,
well,
that's for sure.
no, I mean, what I would say is not to do is don't just stay in your home and think like it's going to happen and just feel sorry for yourself. I know it's hard, but if you're feeling very discouraged, there are, there's other supports like myself out there, or there's other ways to meet people. So, maybe online, maybe you need a break, maybe you're burnt out, and it's just, feeling, discouraging, and that's very common.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
I was going to say, so it's 2023, and let's say it's a middle-aged person, they're divorced or widower, whatever, and they're getting back into it, and they're going on a first date. Now, when we were young, it was kind of cool if you brought, if the man brought a woman a flower. Is there like, when you get older, you go to someone's house, you bring a bottle of wine. Like, what is appropriate or inappropriate, like on a first date, to do? Is it too much for someone to bring some type of gift on a first date, or is like flowers or a bottle of wine or something classy, or is it seem like you're trying too hard?
I mean, I probably wouldn't recommend it, because when I set two people up, I've told each of them about each other, and they've seen a profile without revealing confidential information like last names and phone numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, when two people that I introduce meet, it's the very first time. So essentially, it is a blind date. So I never have people go to each other's homes. I usually find a neutral place, like a restaurant or an activity that they can do together. I think a gift could be a little overkill, but I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I think, for example, if you know that like the person you're meeting has a dog, it could be very sweet to bring the dog, the person a little toy for their dog. So a small thoughtful gift, I think, could be very sweet. I just wouldn't do anything too over the top, like roses, because I think that, a dozen roses can just be a little bit too strong, especially if they're not necessarily interested in you or there's no chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
It could be awkward. So I would probably say generally maybe hold off on the gift, but I've had people do little something, and it can be, if you bring one flower, that can be very sweet, instead of like a dozen roses.
Let's say the first date, both parties, this is the scenario. I think it went pretty well to well. What is the appropriate increment these days in, sending a text or calling someone or sending a text to in person in post-date contact? Like, is it too much to call the next day or send a text the next day, or is that almost expected these days? Like, what are the rules?
No, I think it's good if it went well to let the other person know within a couple days, that if you didn't say it at the end of the date that, oh, I'd like to see you again, to let them know you had a good time, and that you're interested in seeing each other again. Because that way you're keeping the momentum going, and a lot of times people don't know if it went well. Now, since when people hire a matchmaker, they find out very quickly because I'm involved. I talk to people the next day and I send out a survey, so I know immediately, so nobody's ever left hanging. But I definitely think it's important to let somebody know if you had a nice time, and let them know you would be interested. So, we all do better with positive reinforcement, and it's a little scary, to put yourself out there and kind of be vulnerable in that way. But I think just letting them know that you had a good time. Now, I wouldn't overwhelm them and be sending them like 5 texts the next day, or call more than once, because you don't want to scare them either or look really desperate.
Right. Okay. So let's say you had these dates and you went on more than one. And in this scenario, one person probably likes the other one more, but the other one, they had a good time, and they like going out with the person, but it hasn't been the sparkle in their eyes yet. They're not sure. How many of those okay dates, is when you sort of say to someone, it's probably time to try somewhere else.
Right. I mean, I don't make that determination. I let them make that determination. Or we make it together by processing the date, talking about it. I definitely think it's important not to make any quick judgments. I see that more often, where people see one thing they don't like and they're like, nope, I'm done. They see one thing they don't care for about the person, they get scared, and they don't give it a chance. Mm-hmm. But if somebody, I feel, has been open-minded and they've played it out, they've gone on a few dates, and they just feel like it's not building, it's not developing, or they're not, a connection's not growing, then I respect their choice. I'm not there to pressure anybody or make them feel they have to keep dating somebody they're really not that into. So, I try to be their voice of reason, or try to, help them figure this out, because it's not always clear cut, right? Sometimes you don't feel spark the first 2 dates, and then all of a sudden you do. There's no exact science to it. But I just think my professional, perspective with, being a therapist really comes into play there, is very beneficial to my clients, just because I kind of know a lot of people are dealing with a lot of emotional issues when it comes to dating. They don't want to make a mistake. They have a lot of anxiety. They have unrealistic expectations. They think they should be like doing cartwheels because of what they see on TV. So, I try to be that neutral person for them, to try to, help them come to a decision.
Right. You indicated that after the date, after the people meet, date, whatever we want to call it, that you get sort of like an incident report. You follow up and you find out what's going on. You get a survey. So I'm sure it comes up probably plenty where one person's like, I really was into that person. Let's just use Jack and Jill. And let's just say Jack was really into Jill, but Jill was not feeling it at all. And, it's only one date. Do you say to Jill, you sure you don't want to go out with Jack a second time? Jill's like, maybe she says, okay, one more time. Or she says, absolutely not. Do you then do you feel it's incumbent upon you to go to Jack and say, listen, I talked to Jill. I know you like her, but I don't think it's going to work out there. Let's see what else I have for you.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Okay.
And I'm not there to hurt people's feelings, but I don't want to waste anybody's time. Right. And I don't want to give them false hope.
Right. So it's also alienating your other client, who, Jill, who, you don't want to waste her time either.
Right. Right. And, I always tell people it's a process. Yes, have I had matches from the very first date? Yes. But more often than not, it's a process where you have to meet a few people before it clicks. So, we continue searching, and we just move on.
What are the oddest sets of hobbies which led to a match? Like something that you wouldn't picture. Like you had two mid-40s people who just loved Harry Potter or something like that. That sort of out of the
Oh,
blue that you never knew would cause the spark, but it's what caused the spark.
I don't know. That's a really tough one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any like thing that stands out in my mind where the hobbies were really unusual or something like unheard of. I mean,
Well, let's reverse it then. I don't want to put you in a situation where you have to really stretch. What let's flip it around to what are the most common things that people bond over and that it leads to a sort of a lasting bond. Doesn't need to be marriage, but something that,
right.
you've had a reasonable dating experience.
I mean, usually people, are very visually oriented, right? We're a very visually oriented society.
Mm-hmm.
So often, if there's some physical connection or attraction, that that's usually right what creates a desire to want to get to know this person, to talk to them. Not always, but that has a huge effect,
Well, for me,
and
it's
that's
always
why.
because everyone sees me and everybody wants this. I understand, but what's the thing on the other side that the person needs to have?
Well, I think just, obviously looking really like you're happy and confident with yourself and showing, that you have those intrinsic qualities, that you care like about the other person. You're asking them questions. You want to know about them. You're showing interest. You're not looking at your phone, during the date. You're, you know, you have good eye contact. Um, you're able to maybe connect yourself with what they're saying. So if they said, "Oh, I love going to New York to the theater to see musicals." Maybe the other person needs to say, "Oh yeah, I once went to New York and I saw I
Fiddler
don't
on the
know,
Roof.
Fiddler on the Roof, and I loved it, and I'd love to do more like that." So you want to connect, maybe find a connection or something, a commonality. And it doesn't have to be anything huge. It could be they have a dog and you're thinking about getting a dog. And so you're like really interested and you're like asking about like their dog and the breed and how did they find their dog? Did they get a rescue? Did they, go to a breeder? Like how did they know what to, so you want to show interest and you want to find something where you can find some type of practical connection besides the romantic connection. You want to show like, oh, you like to run. Oh, I used to run. I can't run anymore because my knees went bad, but where do you go running, right? Like, and talk, so you have some commonality there, and it helps build a connection.
So I'd be lost on the running thing, of course. I'd be, So, but you should definitely not lie about. Well, I stopped running because I lost my legs in the war, and you have your legs and you've never been in a war. That's a no-no. But in more, reasonable and less ridiculous no-nos, like, do you ever say to people, listen, don't talk about politics and don't talk about money,
Yes,
at least
I say
until
that
the
a lot.
fourth date or something like that.
Yeah, I say that a lot. I usually say don't talk about politics or religion, or those are very sensitive topics and can be triggering for some people. And so let's keep it a little bit lighter. um, and it doesn't have to be superficial, but let's steer away from politics and religion because those can be touchy subjects
Do you ever give
for.
suggestions on like, restaurants? Like, do you ever say, listen, the first date, you're not going to the Capitol Grill or, or the most expensive.
Well, yes, I would never do that. I set up the date.
Mm-hmm.
I set up the date. I set up the venue where they're going to meet, and the day and the time. So I would never do that. I would never, unless somebody really requested and
Mm-hmm.
they don't mind paying for it. I would never have a date go out to a really expensive place, unless again they ask for that and they're going to pay the bill.
Do you suggest that the first
Pay the
dates
check.
go Dutch or no, a date's a date, and it's
I mean, I'm old fashioned that way. I still feel in the beginning that the man should pay, but I think it's nice for the woman to offer. I really do. Um, I think it depends. It's very different out there. Dating's changing a lot, and so, I think it's very personal. But I generally think when you're dealing with at least heterosexual couples, that women want to feel provided for. And it doesn't mean they have to pay every date, but in the beginning, I think women still like chivalry and like to feel that the man's kind of taking the lead.
well, I'm old
And
fashioned
it's
too.
very,
I feel the same way, and I have to tell you that listen, I'm not single, but I was 6.5 years ago, and you know if I was on a date and the woman offered to pay, part of me would think it's nice, but most of me would think she's telling me she's not interested.
oh, yeah, I've heard that. It's interesting you say I've heard that perspective before.
And I understand the
You
world has
know, I,
changed, but I'm probably dating someone from my generation, right? I'm not dating a 22-year-old.
right, right.
There's
But
no
I,
response needed.
I used to offer
Mhm.
when I was dating after a couple times because it made me feel more comfortable. So I didn't want the man to think I was just like not appreciating it or just, you know, feeling like I'm taking advantage or so.
Well, it has
So
to be
I
like
like
a
to
kissy
offer.
kissy, so that they know that you're interested, and then at that point, they're just being, they're not trying to take advantage of you, but you have to have the kissy kissy first.
Oh,
That-
okay. Sounds like you should be a matchmaker.
I'm sure I would be awful at it. uh, it's interesting you brought up, with heterosexual couples. I mean, I assume that you do matchmaking for same-sex couples, or, I don't know all the terminology.
Right. I don't, but there are matchmakers that I work with who do
Okay.
specialize in that,
Okay.
in same sex. And what I learned, because I worked with one like this past week, is she had, we were actually matching my client out with her client. So I will collaborate with matchmakers from around the country and even other countries,
Hmm.
um, if people are open to that. And this one client was heterosexual, even though she specializes in uh, gay, lesbian population. Um, and she said she expects the man in a heterosexual date to pay, but she said it's not that way with same sex dates. They usually split it, and I didn't know that, so I thought that was interesting. That's what she told me.
It is interesting. Um, I mean, it's not interesting. Like I need to now analyze it, but it is an interesting little factoid. Now, I was going to wonder if you had a different approach in how you treated the matchmaking, but you don't do it. So so that's not much of a discussion. Um, Tammy, I know that you love, and are there any last thoughts? Going into this Valentine's Day week, this show will probably drop on Valentine's Day or the evening before, because of course that's when it should. Um, what kind of love tips can you give to those who are putting their toes back in the water, or new at love, or maybe think they're on the beginnings of new love? And are there any suggestions you can give them to try to keep them from going off the rails?
Well, first I say is if you don't have any person in your love life right now, that do something for yourself. Be loving and kind to yourself. Treat yourself to something for Valentine's Day, or treat somebody in your, friend or family. Get, giving love. I think it comes back, and that always feels good. I think in terms of, if you're looking to be with somebody, I mean, maybe you need to initiate something and step out of your comfort zone. Like if say you still have somebody that you've always thought about, maybe you need to take a risk and call that person that maybe you haven't gotten over if you know they're single. Um, take some risks. Like, again, look online, see what events are out there. There's like meetup.com. They always have like different, just even interest groups. They're not necessarily just about dating, but it's about making connections with just different people in your life. Because I believe one thing in life leads to another. It's like the domino effect. So even by like saying going to a tennis clinic on Thursday nights, you never know how, again, one thing in life leads to another, and how that can have a positive impact on your dating life.
Right. And when you do
So
something like that, you're already finding one thing in common. You're both interested in tennis or bowling or whatever it might be.
that's true. Mm-hmm.
Tammy,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody's interested in engaging your services or finding out a little bit more about you, how would they do so?
Sure. They can call me at 410-602-1683, or they can go to my website, which is www.luckyinlove. It's Lucky in Love, Luv. So make sure you're spelling it love, Luv. And then you can put in some basic information, and then I can go ahead and send.
Is it .com or .net? .com. Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time and continued success in this very noble and important venture of getting people together. So it's my pleasure. All right. Take care. And you have a happy Valentine's Day too. Bye.